Hi, hello. So in my previous video, I have given a demonstration of answer writing for political science and international relations paper, and many students have welcomed that particular video. And in fact, after seeing that video, many aspirants started asking me for, sir, please put a sociology answer writing videos also. So hereafter we will continue with this series also, that is sociology mains answer writing videos, right? Fine. So now here I am going to compare two versions of answer scripts, right? One version of answer script written by an aspirant, another version of answer script written by me, right? Fine. Now here I am going to take up one question from mains 2022, right? That is the recent mains. The question is, sociologists argue for democratization of science and technology for inclusive development. Comment. This is for 20 marks, mains 2022, right? Fine. To show is written by an aspirant, right? Fine. Now see, I am just going to read the answer as written by the aspirant, and I will point out what are the shortcomings in this answer. But okay, and I will point out what are the shortcomings in this answer script, right? Fine. Now the first paragraph: science since time immemorial has acted as the harbinger of social change and development, full stop. The industrial revolution and the birth of modernity stands testimony to the fact, full stop. However, the change and development science attributed was on unequal terms, wherein a section of people or countries ended up on a higher note while the others were stranded, right? This is the first paragraph. Now the second paragraph: the unequal relations was brought to the surface during the COVID-19 pandemic, wherein the entire globe entered uncharted waters, full stop. The vaccine nationalism and the unequal access to vaccines illustrated the disparity in the scientific world order, right? Fine. So this is the first these are the first two paragraphs of the answer. Now the third paragraph: neo-Marxist theorists and other dependency theorists like Wallerstein, World Systems, A.G. Frank, Raoul Prebisch hold that the underdevelopment of the periphery is due to the unequal trade relations with the core, with scientific and technical know-how at the heart of their relations. Now the fourth paragraph: in the Indian context, the science-based development disparity was widely witnessed during the pandemic induced learning losses due to the lack of gadgets and connectivity to continue education through the online route, and various other instances like digital divide, lack of healthcare, etc. illustrate the lack of inclusive development and calls for a democratic science that leaves no one behind, right? Now the fifth paragraph: American sociologist R.K. Merton in his Ethos of Science has characterized science as one that is universal, disinterested in personal gratification, communist for all, and as the one that goes through organized skepticism. In his theory of science, Merton, through the use of concepts like universal, disinterested and communism, calls for a democratic science that puts the profit motive in the back seat, right? Fine. Now the next paragraph: various modern day social theorists having studied the impact of unequal science oriented social change have also called for democratization of science that can address unequal relations in the social order and call for an all encompassing inclusive global order, right? Okay, fine. Now the next paragraph: however, every positive value has its price in negative terms. Though democratization of science is welcome, it must be approached with caution, avoiding blindfolded access. Such access in certain instances prove detrimental to the society at large, full stop. For instance, the proliferation of nuclear weapons can prove deadly, especially during a period of global tensions, right? Democratizing science and access to technology can help reduce the deep-seated and long-rooted social, political and economic issues such as underdevelopment and underdevelopment, unequal access to human rights, etc. It can lead to a global order led by science that puts forth equality at its forefront and leaves no stone unturned. Right? Fine. See, now this answer looks bit a kind of okay, but not the best. Right? Fine. See, the problem with this answer is there is no structure and cogency, first thing. And this thing, if you observe in this paragraph on R.K. Merton, he has repeatedly emphasized only the same point. See, you just read through the paragraph. American sociologist R.K. Merton, in his Ethos of Science, has characterized science as one that is universal, disinterested, communist, organized skepticism. Now again, in the next sentence, he has just repeated the same thing without any details or without any, what you can call, innovative point. The same sentence has been repeated again, that's all. There is nothing much difference, right? And see, in almost 3 paragraphs of this answer, the same point is being repeatedly stressed. The same point is being repeatedly stressed. And in case, and in fact, if you remove this paragraph with respect to R.K. Merton, this will look like a general studies answer. Fine. See, so the question, I am just repeating the question again. Sociologists argue for democratization of science and technology for inclusive development. Comment, right? Fine. See, I am putting subheadings. The first subheading, meaning of democratization. Besides the fair elections and decentralized governance, the technological advances and the scientific innovations should work as catalysts in the process of strengthening our democracy. Next paragraph, democratization of science and technology refers to the process by which access to science and technology rapidly continues to become more accessible to more people. That is, science and technology will need to be made more participatory and inclusive so that there is public engagement in the scientific endeavor from the full spectrum of social actors, including women, young people, and indigenous communities. Access and equity are linked to inclusion. Next paragraph, exclusion of individuals and groups from equitable access to science and technology developments can become a major threat to social cohesion and very dangerously affect communal harmony. These exclusions are not simple but a complex phenomenon. See, before starting to write an answer, first understand the question, understand what exactly is demanded, and fix exactly what is needed and what you are planning to write it on the answer sheet, right? So without fixing the content to be written, don't proceed to write answer, because then it will become directionless answer, right? Now for this question, first I have defined and explained what is the meaning of democratization of science and technology from a sociological perspective. See, again, just the definition of democratization of science and technology is insufficient. You should define it from a sociologist perspective, right? From a sociological perspective. So that's why I have spent 3 paragraphs to define and explain what is the meaning of democratization of science and technology from a sociological perspective, right? So this is my, right, United Nations. In 2016, UNHRC General Assembly articulated access to the internet as an essential human right. Open internet is especially valuable for marginalized voices that might not otherwise reach their intended audiences, right? Now the next subheading, Indian Constitution. In Fahima Sigrin case 2019, Kerala High Court stated that right to access internet is a part of right to education and right to privacy under Article 21A and Article 21 respectively, full stop. Through 42nd Amendment Act, Article 51A(h) was added, which states that it shall be the duty of every citizen of India to develop scientific temper, humanism and the spirit of inquiry and reform, right? See, whenever such questions, and more specifically the sociological perspective like things come, you should substantiate as much as possible the constitutionality and legality of the claim or the legality of the issue. That's very important, because the constitutionality defines the scope and application to the society. The constitutionality defines the scope and application to the society. So this is essential in fact for this kind of question, right? Fine. Now the next subheading, thinkers' views. As rightly remarked by Ogburn, within bracket, cultural lag phenomenon, science and technology changes society by changing our environment to which we in turn adapt. Right? Fine. Next, Durkheim explains the transition from mechanical solidarity to organic solidarity using the phenomenon of progress of science and technology, which has transformed the primitive society into industrialized society, right? Fine. Next paragraph. Thorstein Veblen's technological determinism proposed that technology in any given society defines its nature. Karl Marx showed how a society of hand mill, that is feudal society, changed into society of steam engine, that is industrialized capitalist society, right? Fine. Now next subheading, ethos of modern science. R.K. Merton states that 1. Communism, that is common ownership. 2. Universalism, that is within bracket objectivity. 3. Disinterestedness, lack of self-centric motivations. 4. Organized skepticism, that is based on logical and empirical inquiry and criteria, right? Are the 4 components of ethos of science, right? Now next subheading, illustrations. I am going to give examples, right? So these 2 examples in fact that aspirant has also given. Fine. So the first example, the COVID-19 pandemic has brought to the fore the digital divide and made education a privilege only a few can afford. Lack of smartphones, data costs, technology illiteracy, mobile connectivity have exposed the ills of undemocratic access to technology. The second illustration, WHO during COVID-19 pandemic warned of vaccine nationalism and hoarding of vaccines, full stop. It further said sharing finite supplies strategically and globally is actually in each country's national interest, right? Fine. Now concluding, I am going to conclude the answer. Looking forward, that is, a democratized scientific development from a sociological perspective would produce a planned and directed social change, full stop. Disadvantaged sections of society will not be able to flourish in the absence of inclusive and sustainable development of science and technology that creates jobs, builds skills and reduces poverty, right? Fine. So I'll just scan both the answer sheets and I'll give the PDF link in the description. You can click and view the view and compare both the answers, right? Fine, right? See, now if you see my version, I have ordered in a very cogent manner and I have given small subheadings, and it's purely a sociological answer. See, that's what when it comes to sociology question paper, most of the questions are more very general. Non-sociology student can answer the same question from a generalist point of view, but we being sociology students, we should write an answer from a sociological perspective. That difference ultimately determines the quality of your answer, and ultimately it decides the number of marks you are going to get for an answer. So that is very important. You should always impregnate your answers with a sociological inputs, right? An answer which is very general, lacking a sociologist input or sociological perspective will definitely get very less marks, right? So please make sure your answer is purely from a sociological perspective with lot of sociological dimensions and inputs, because such questions are very generic and general question anybody can answer. So answer written by anybody or somebody is different from an answer written by a sociology student, right? Fine. Thank you. Bye.